Hello, Malik Currington here, Family Budget Fisherman. I got a jam-packed show that I hope is not too long, but I got three major issues that I want to discuss. Number one, braided line versus fluorocarbon versus mono. Number two, I got me another Dick's Sporting Goods. It's too small to call a haul, but there's some interesting items in here. And then number three, I finally did it based on popular demand. I mean, we're at the cusp of 1,000 subs and 4,000 watch hours anyway. I finally put the logo on shirts. Let's talk about it. Well, thank you for tuning in. Like I said, I want to talk with you about three particular issues. One, a very, very serious issue that is for some reason doesn't have an end. And I'm going to bring an end to that. And that is should you use braided line? Should you use fluorocarbon line? Should you use monofilament? That's one major, major issue. On a light note, I'm going to show you what I bought. And I'm going to intersperse that with the discussion on braided versus monofilament versus fluorocarbon. I think you're going to like how that results. And then in the end, for those of you who are interested, we're going to talk about the merch. Yep, the merch. So I'll put that on the end for those of you who want to move into other areas. But so this issue about braid versus fluorocarbon versus mono. It usually is braid versus mono, but I'm throwing fluorocarbon in there. For whatever reason, this ugly, contentious issue shows up in fishing, and in particular, bass fishing. I don't see it in other areas with any major degree, but in bass fishing, there are purists who believe that if you and I are not fishing the way they fish, it is, quote, incorrect. Now, like I said in times past, I'll put my nearly 5 decades of experience next to any person, whether they be a novice, a professional, experienced, beginner, doesn't matter. And I'm going to give you the definitive answer on what you should use. And here it is. In a nutshell, I'm going to give it to you before you even watch the rest of this video. Whatever you want. Whatever combination you put together will be the right combination for you to use. Whether you're using all monofilament, whether you're using all fluorocarbon, whether you're using all braid, it doesn't matter except to you as the fisherman. And I'm going to prove it in this episode. Here it is. Monofilament is used primarily by beginners. For those of you who've seen my beginner series, and I'm going to put that in a playlist. I have a beginner series. I do not encourage beginners to use any other type of line other than monofilament because the goal is for you to learn how to fish, and you need the most flexibility possible. And monofilament offers the best flexibility for you to learn how to fish. When you get into fluorocarbons and braided lines, there's a certain sophistication, certain nuances that you need to be apprised of where you haven't gone through the basics yet. Okay? Now, so monofilament has a lot of stretch, but you can throw the widest pantheon of baits with monofilament than you can any other bait, any other than fluorocarbon or braided line, period. There are times when fluorocarbon works better than monofilament, but it doesn't have as wide of a range as monofilament. There are times when braid works better than monofilament, but monofilament has the broadest range of baits and techniques that you can use. Okay. Now, and for what it's worth, it's been used longer than all the other lines. Okay. When bass tournaments were started, people were using monofilament and they were winning tens of thousands of dollars and hundreds of thousands of dollars in tournament prizes. No one was thinking about going with braid and fluorocarbons until much later as the game got better and more competitive. Remember, fluorocarbon and braided lines are as a result of competition in professional fishing, in particular, professional bass fishing. Okay? Now, fluorocarbon works better than monofilament when it comes to applications like reaction baits. When you want to get a bait down deeper, you can do it better with monofilament. With fluorocarbon. One other thing with fluorocarbon is that it is seen less in the water. It is not 100% invisible. Don't ever believe that, because the minute your line gets dirty, it can be seen. It's like the invisible man. As long as he's naked and not dirty, he can be seen. He can't be seen. But the minute dust particles accumulate, you'll begin to see them. And when we're in stained water, when we're sometimes in crystal clear water, but you have particles, you can see fluorocarbon line, not nearly as much as you can see monofilament or braided line, but you have a better advantage for invisibility with fluorocarbon lines. And that includes the hybrids and the polymers and the whole bit, that whole bandwidth of fluorocarbon lines. Now, so next is braid. Braid, the tensile strength of braid far exceeds monofilament and fluorocarbon on every level. It doesn't matter. When we're talking about tensile strength, we're talking about tensile strength versus diameter of the line itself. You can have three of the lines. Monofilament, let's say the diameter of the monofilament is the equivalent of 10-pound test. Fluorocarbon, same, 10-pound test. Well, the diameter of the braided line at 10-pound test is a third of what the fluorocarbon in the monofilament is. It just works that way. The tensile strength of braided lines are so good that you have, so in my case, I like to use fins. This is a 6-pound test diameter, but the break strength on this particular line without a knot is 62 pounds. It says it right here, 61 pounds. I stand corrected, 61 pounds. When you put a knot in it, a good knot, they say 45 pounds. Now, I don't think it's that high all the time because it depends on what kind of knot you tie. But even if you start off at 61, and let's say you lose 50% in the knot, you're still at 30 pounds break strength. Well, you have rope size monofilament and fluorocarbon to even get close to that. And then when you tie a knot in those, you compromise the break strength of those lines as well. So that's the overall idea for, braid to fluorocarbon to monofilament. Yes, there is no stretch in braided. There's a little stretch in fluorocarbon. There is a lot of stretch in monofilament. But you have to think about that when you think in terms of reaction, shock absorption, because there are times when you use a stiffer rod where monofilament might be your best because it has shock absorption, where fluorocarbon doesn't absorb shock as much. But then you get into a situation where you need the most, the stealthiest way of fishing, where you have to compromise on the stretch so you get a more limber line because your line has less stretch in it. And then ultimately with braided line, you want it to have even more flexibility. I know people like to use fast action. I use a lot of fast action rods just the same. But ultimately what you're looking for with braided line is you're looking for tensile strength. So you probably won't need to address the issue of shock absorption as much because you're not throwing as many reaction baits. If you are, you may want to consider a glass rod over a carbon rod or its equivalent, or go with a more limber rod, say a medium action or medium fast rather than a fast action. Okay, so those are things to consider. You beginner fishermen, this is why we say don't start off with all these other lines, because there are too many other nuances and areas that you need to consider. Learn how to fish. Get yourself good at fishing. Break off a few, lines, few baits. If you've learned how to shop for baits, like I've shared with you on this channel, you won't even have to worry about it. Okay? So that's the main thing, is to make sure that you are doing your best to understand those lines. Don't let anybody, not any other channel on YouTube, Rumble, Daily Motion, Vimeo, I don't care where it is. Don't let anyone tell you that a particular line is better than another. It's not. It's all about application. One other thing that you will find as you buy fishing equipment, over the time you buy fishing equipment, let's say right now we're in January, I can promise you this, particularly for those of you who are beginner fishermen who will gain more rapidly than those of us who started fishing a long time ago, because you just have more information available to you. Your fishing style and technique will mature, and it will not look a lot like what it does now in December of 2022. If you don't believe me, ask a novice all the way up to the experience. Well, what was your fishing style like early last year, or the year before that, or the year before that? People's fishing styles change. Ask Kevin Van Dam. Kevin Van Dam is still the #1 fisherman in the world in the history of bass fishing, period. Okay? Now, Rick Clunn is right up under him. Okay? Just the way it is. He's not, he got knocked off a little bit, but Rick Clunn is #2. And he's older than Kevin Van Dam, I think, by 20 years, or nearly 20 years. So you have those two. And I promise you, from year to year, their fishing style changed over the years. If you don't believe me, go back and look at some of their bass tournaments that they did in the 90s versus the early 2000s versus the mid 2000s, and now their fishing styles now. They just change. So, and speaking of change, here's one of my first things from bass, from Dick's Sporting Goods. Dick's Sporting Goods is now selling the new Creed X. Those of you who remember, if you go back, these are the old Creed GT 3000s, okay? As you can see, I have one that's kind of sitting over here. These are the new Creed X 3000s. Now, they are not the same, just so that you know, okay? This reel is lighter than this reel. This reel has more bearings than this reel. The old has more bearings than the new. The old is lighter than the new. And the gear ratio, 6:2:1 on this one. It is 5:2:1, 2:1, okay? Now, why do they sell this one and not this one? It's because this one is more expensive to make than this one. This retails for $60. This retailed for $90, okay? Just to let you know. Now, that said, I am going to open this baby up, and I'm going to do a real review on it because I saw it, I liked it. I liked the family of rods from before. I would compare their previous model to the Daiwa BG. I mean, it's that good of a reel. And if you don't believe me, take a look at what I said about this reel in some of the earlier videos. So the Creed X 3000 looks like a good reel. Now, and I'm just saying, I want to show you how fishing changes over time. Even the manufacturers do something different. I picked up a couple of packs of these Zoom Razor Shad, and it was a color that I'm not familiar with. This color is black blue laminate. Okay, I got a couple packs. Pretty cool, huh? Now, I want you to imagine if you threw these 30 years ago, you'd be throwing them on mono and you would catch fish. If you threw them today, more than likely, you throw them on fluorocarbon. You know, the fluorocarbon, maybe 8-pound test, maybe 10-pound test, 12 pounds if you're a little edgy. Me personally, I would throw them on a braid with a leader. And I'll show you that. I got some rods over here set up, and I'll show you what I'm talking about here. I also bought some roboworms. Now, I am a preacher of the gospel, and I'm going to show you what this is, because I'm not going to be recorded saying certain things that ought not be said by a preacher of the gospel, but this is a pretty color. I'm going to call this itching craw. Itching craw. You see it there, right? You see it there. That's roboworms, one of their newer colors. Okay, this is a 6-inch straight tail roboworm. Beautiful looking lure there. It's a beautiful lure. Okay, but hey, you saw the name of it. I'll call it itching. Itching. Well, here's another one. I don't know about you all, but I am really starting to like more about what Googan Squad is doing. Unfortunately, like I've told you before, we already know North Point has bought out Carl's Bait and Tackle. Carl's Bait and Tackle owned Googan Squad along with the 5. Actually, there's 6. The guy, One Rod, One Reel, was kind of a silent partner for a long time. He had a quasi status there, but there are 5, named guys. They now control the Googan Squad, kind of the marketing arm, the fan base arm from Texas. And so they are producing some baits that are beautiful. These are beautiful. Now, I will get some stunners, but this Scout looks good. And we'll see what it looks like. So understand that it is important for you to realize that your fishing technique style will change, and you are going to have different kinds of baits, and you've seen all kinds of baits on this channel, different kinds of baits, different types of techniques. You're going to prefer one over the other. If you're a fisherman like the rest of us, we carry about, 50, 80, 100 pounds of equipment to the lake, and we fish 9 baits. Now, why didn't we just take those 9 baits with us? Well, we will say, and with some degree of sincerity, we will say, well, the reason why we did it is because we didn't know what the water was going to look like, the weather conditions. We didn't know how long we were going to have or what our circumstances were. So that's why we carry 100 pounds of bait and 15 rods, 20 rods with us when we go fishing. When the truth of the matter is, like I said, we say that with sincerity, but the truth of the matter is, with every time you touch the water, your technique gets better and different and better and different till you learn a particular technique and become known for a particular technique. And that's really what it's all about. And you're constantly honing in. And it could be anything that changes that situation for you. You got to have something red around springtime. And that has to do with crawdads coming. Some hibernate. Some crawdads hibernate. Not all crawdads hibernate, but some crawdads hibernate. And when they come out red. Some, you got the main colors for crawdads are red, green, blue, and black. You may have other colors out there, but red, green, blue, and black are your major colors. And spring is red. I mean, this is like the 1977 or 1979 movie, The Wiz. You change. You go from red to yellow to green. They went from red to yellow to green. We go from red to green to blue to black. Okay? So, baby goat, fire crawl. I got a couple packs of those. As I'm going through this, let me share with you I got 3 rods here. I have my Poison Adrena, okay? I have here my Zodius, okay? And these both have Vanfords on them. So I got the Poison Adrena with a Vanford, I got a Zodius with a Vanford. And picking up the slack is my Ugly Stick, my Shakespeare Ugly Stick, with a Daiwa Regal 2500 on it. And I have it here, okay? Now, the beauty of all 3 of these rods is that they're all rigged a little differently. This one is rigged with a leader. So that it's braided line with a leader. This leader is about almost 2 feet. I'd say about 20 inches long. And this is set up for reaction and light punching. Okay, the way I have it set up here. This is 45-pound test break strength line. Believe it or not, this leader is about 30-pound test monofilament. Okay, I built it as a shock absorber. It absorbs about 15% on the stretch, which is all I need. And, you know, the Ugly Sticks, you know, you can get into, that's about the top 40%, you know, of this rod. This is a 7-foot rod. Is it 7 foot? I think it's 7 foot. This is 7-foot medium, 7.6 medium light, as a matter of fact, because I'm using braid shock absorption. So I need a medium light, you know. Now, I have thrown a lot of reaction baits. I've caught a lot of fish. You know, some of you see it on Instagram, the fish catches. Some of you have seen them in videos here on YouTube. So I catch a lot of fish. And this right here is built to absorb the shock of a fish so I can pin the fish and not lose the fish. And as you can see, it has a swivel. It has a leader, about 18 to 20 inches, and it has a snap on the end, okay? Now, this deals with line twist. And you've seen me say this in times past, but I'm saying this in relationship to this whole braided line versus fluorocarbon versus monofilament. So that's a line right there, that braided line, and it has the shock absorber of 30-pound test monofilament between a swivel and a snap, okay? And I promise you, that rod right there has brought in some good striped bass. As a matter of fact, it's been a while, but I'll show you striped bass that I thought was about 5 pounds smaller than what it actually was. Now, the next rod is this is my Poison. Is this the Poison? There's the Zodius. This is the Zodius, okay? Now, the Zodius here is all braid. This one is all braid, all the way down to the snap. Now, we're not going to have a discussion about snaps, but because there is a discussion to be had about snaps. Now, I use this primarily for topwater action because braided line floats, and I didn't say that earlier, but braided line floats, and it makes it a better topwater line than fluorocarbon, which sinks like a rock, or monofilament, which sinks more gradually. So I have that there. And then, of course, this is the 4-pound test diameter line. So I can launch like nobody's business. I can launch. For example, I just bought these head. I don't care what anybody say. Head and lures, okay? You have seen me thrown any variation of this before. I think this is still the best topwater bait you can buy, period. It's better than this has a better catch history than the Whopper Plopper, and the Whopper Plopper is an amazing bait. In every variation of it, I tip my hat. But right here, this is where it is, right here. This is the 3-pack Super Spook Junior, okay? You have the Zara Spook, which is the bigger one, and I have a bunch of those. And then you have the little torpedoes that are smaller, okay? Now, this one, I had to get this one because I want to throw this size and this area as I'm getting more into bigger baits on a more regular basis with my spinning gear. I want to go in this direction. Now, can I throw this with this? You dang skippy, I can. Yes, indeed. This is a medium heavy, this rod here. This is, where are my specs on here? I always forget where they are. Let me turn it around here real quick. So the specs on here are this is the 7-foot medium. Yeah, the lure rating on here is 1/4 to 3/4. This is the 7-foot. This is a medium heavy Zodius spinning rod. And it has, this is the Shimano Vanford 4000. You probably can't see it right there, but it's a 4000 reel. And the other one I'm going to show you is a 3000 reel. Now, on my Poison Adrena here, this is a 3000 reel, and this is a combination. You all please forgive me because I know better than what you just saw. I lost a hook keeper for this rod, and so I put it on my guide there, and I should not have. My stripper guide it's not going to loosen up because I don't keep it tight, but I shouldn't have had it on there. So bad host. Now, this one has a leader. This is a 15-pound fluorocarbon leader. Okay. I have a double uni knot on there, and I have a snap. Okay. And I catch them with this right here. So you see 3 different versions. I have a braid combo. Now, I have a braid combo I have an all braid, a braid combo with mono, with a swivel and a snap, and a braid combo with fluorocarbon with just a snap on it and a double uni. Okay. Now, so just to finish talking about these are some wonderful baits. This is a 3-pack that I got from Dick's Sporting Goods last night. Well, earlier tonight. I'm saying last night. Earlier tonight. You will see this tomorrow. So that's why I said earlier tonight. Now, the next thing I got is I got the new cigar. Bass 6 100% fluorocarbon cigar. This, of course, is now being sold at Dick's Sporting Goods. Now, the only concern that I have with this being sold at Dick's is it's a buck more at Dick's. It's $10.99 at Dick's. It's $9.99 at Tackle Warehouse. But what's the cost to get it from Tackle Warehouse to you may be the difference. But having said that, I don't normally throw cigar lines. I normally throw the Trilene stuff. You've seen it here. Matter of fact, I have, it's not here. Okay, well, that's okay. I thought that I had the 10-pound one here. It's probably way over there somewhere behind the camera. But Trilene 104% fluorocarbon. And the reason why is because, remember this, fluorocarbon is fluorocarbon is fluorocarbon. Either it's 100% fluorocarbon or it's not 100% fluorocarbon. There is not a different 100% fluorocarbon. Yozuri, cigar, none of that. The difference in the line, and I'm going to give you a secret, okay? Hold on, because I know some line manufacturers. The secret is not in the composition of the line, but as the line is being spun out, is it being cut and molded together, or is it one continuous strand for, in this case, 200 yards? That's the difference. When when Berkeley makes this line, they do this in, I believe, 100-yard segments. So there might be a break somewhere here. Okay, the lines are normally fused together. We don't normally know that, and we don't always experience breakage at those lines. But braided lines are exactly the same way. When they're gel spun out, there's a break, and here's where the break is. So let's say you run 200 yards. So you run the 200 yards, this spool takes 200 yards, but there's a finite amount of gel to make this fluorocarbon in the container. They don't continuously feed the container, they empty the container out because there's a different composition of lime. But what they do is they empty it out and then they fuse the lines together and then they continue to run it through. So it could be at the 50-yard mark, it could be at the 75-yard mark, or the 200 or the 150-yard mark, but it may be a different line fused together. That's the difference between a higher end and a lower end. But when they say it's 100% fluorocarbon, there's only one standard for fluorocarbon. Either it is or it is not. So just keep that in mind. This cigar, I believe, will be replacing the red label. Okay? It's about $5 less expensive per spool, but it's giving you the same qualities of the cigar red label. Now, what this did for me is put this in the crosshairs of my Trilene, 100% fluorocarbon. So I'm gonna give this a shot. If it works out right, you'll see me use this more often than this. But I got a lot of this, you know. So I'll let you know how it turns out. I am going to spool one of those reels with all fluorocarbon. There will be no leaders. There will be no backing. There will be nothing. It will be 100% fluorocarbon. And I'll let you know what I think of it. Okay. So what else I got in this bag? Last thing is some owner round type lures and round type lures. They're 3/16. I know I told you they're cousins, those bullet heads. I absolutely love those bullet heads. But these were on sale and I got them. Now, all together, I think my total bill, let's see, I spent before taxes $125. That's what, or I should say, that's what the total price came to before taxes. Once my discounts and rewards money was applied, that price went down to $85 in total, which means I saved about a third, about 30, little under a third off of the price, which isn't so bad when you consider that there are very few sales going on at around this time. So there you have it for the mono versus fluorocarbon versus braided line, and then the merchandise that I shared with you. Now, the merchandise. First of all, I want to say thank you for those of you who have been constantly supporting this show, supporting this channel. Secondarily, I want to thank you all for those of you who have encouraged us. When I say us, I mean my wife and me, over the last year or so, to start making merchandise available to you. To be honest with you, I didn't think it was a serious request, only because I didn't see myself as being one of, the guys who people would want to do something like that. So I thought they were kind of, just kind of passive references. Not that you aren't serious people, but they were passive references. But the numbers of you build up to such an extent that my wife and I decided, well, let's just go ahead on and set up a shop so that we can go ahead and provide this merchandise to you. So there will be a link below this video that you can click, and it will take you straight to our merchandise shop that will have these pieces of merchandise available to you, in cups and hats and stickers and shirts and hoodies, etc. I got a couple of examples, one more eccentric and some of the others that seem to be more typical. So you see my shirt here. We have my wife's shirt here. I can get it off the hanger here. This is my wife's shirt here. We have them in various colors. We actually have these in, I believe it's men's purple as well. Purple happens to be one of my more favorite colors up there on the spectrum. And as you can see, this one is a woman's shirt. It's identified by the cut. So just so that you know. But if you like purple as a man, we have the men's purple as well for the shirts. And I did mention the sizes. We have hats. I like this hat. This is a trucker hat, but it has a flat bill, so I'm gonna have to work on it. But isn't that nice? Look at how that logo looks on the forehead of this hat. So we have that, and the hoodie fell. So of course we have hoodies of different colors. Very nice, huh? I think I'm gonna wear this when I do my rod and reel arsenal next month for 2022. Very nice. Got the hoodie again in different colors. Hopefully there's a color that you will enjoy. And then something a little bit more eccentric. We have them in more traditional colors, but my wife orders this specifically. It has the logo on it. It's a water bottle, of course, and it's a powder coated silver glitter flake. Kind of looks like some of our lures. To some of you, this may be the size of some of your swim baits. And then, of course, all of us have some sort of glitter in our lures. So we have those items there. And once again, I cannot tell you enough how much I appreciate your interest in identifying with this channel and with this show by the purchase of merchandise. It is now they're available for you to purchase. I just want to thank you. Also, I'm starting to get more merchandise from those of you who are sending me merchandise. I haven't been to the P.O. box lately, but I anticipate going to it and picking up the merchandise. And we are going to have unboxings of merchandise that you send to me. Several of you have already given you the P.O. box. What I will do is I will update that P.O. box so that everyone knows where to send merchandise or where to send any items of legal interest, legal and ethical interest. So it's just kind of where we are in the world now. So I do appreciate it. Lastly, I am going to go back and look at some of my comments. This year be the year that some of you I will be fishing with. I know that I've gotten at least 10 requests to do some fishing with you, and I look forward to doing that with you this year in 2022. 2020, 2021, they were just some crazy years. We shall delve into what they've become for us, but I'm hardened to share with you now that I am interested in going fishing with you. So look forward to my replies to you for this year. And once again, I say, please, please, please don't get out there and break your family's budget trying to buy any of this equipment, merchandise, or whatever. But by any legal and ethical means, get out there and break your personal best. I will see you in the next video. Have a great time out on the water. Be blessed.